It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have inside of you. And on this episode, we have the one and only Pierre Quinn. He's in the building, and he'll be talking about leading from the inside out. I don't know what that means. We'll figure that out. What's going on? How's it going, Pierre?
Man, I'm excited to be here, man. I've been waiting a long time to be in this spot. So I'm excited to hang out with you and really to encourage our audience as we do this thing called entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And thank you to viewers for tuning in, by the way. We appreciate you. You have a lot of choices and you choose to be with us this evening. So thank you so much, or whatever time you're watching. Pierre, before we get started, we're talking about leading from the inside out. Some people might even know what that even means. I mean, sounds like you're talking about, I need to lead myself first, but I'm not too sure. So can you take a moment and talk about why you selected this topic and why is it so important for those folks that are watching right now?
You know, when we look at a lot of leadership paradigms, we talk about what it means to lead the team or what it means to lead the business. And I've just found from my experience in coaching leaders and coaching entrepreneurs, coaching people from all sectors, sometimes the real struggle, man, is really looking yourself in the mirror and doing the things that are necessary for you to be the type of leader that your team and your organization calls for you to be. And for a lot of people that look in the mirror, and I think in some ways that's why we like these large language models. You know, we can put in, we got a leadership problem or a personality issue on our team, and we can put that in and it'll spit out a response. A lot of these LLMs, large language models, man, they play nice with you. They tell you what you want to hear. They say any idea you put in there, they say, oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Here's how we can do it. And they don't necessarily get that pushback that's necessary for us to grow or for you to grow as a leader. And I think really embracing self-leadership, recognizing that I need to be honest with myself, I need to hold myself accountable, and I need to put myself in positions where I can grow. That's going to have a ripple effect. So when I talk about leading from the inside out, it's really a paradigm around self-leadership, taking care of myself in the way that allows me to be really, really good to my team and really, really good to the business as a whole.
I love it. Well said, by the way. And can we talk first to those folks that are senior leaders? They've been around the block. They've done this, whatever around the block means these days. I guess they've been maybe in a leadership position for 2 years. I guess that's around the block. As fast as time is moving these days. What are some of the challenges that someone who's been in a leadership position for more than 2 years, why are some leaders just still struggling? I mean, I say this a lot and I mean it from my heart. We have AI, which we need, and they can go to AI and say, I've got a challenge with my team. How should I handle the situation? And AI tells them exactly what to do, yet they're still struggling to have a team that wants to follow them. What's some of the challenges some of the challenges that leaders are having these days? I guess that's the question I really have.
Yeah, there are a few things here. So first, and I've been coaching a couple of leaders this week, and so this topic has come up a handful of times. I think the first thing is recognizing the challenge between being an individual contributor and being a people leader. That's really big, especially somebody who's been around the block or down the street a couple of times, still early in that leadership role. The things that made you an incredible individual contributor, the things that made you an incredible salesperson. Some of us are a part of sales teams, and then we get moved to sales leader. Well, there is a difference between selling the good, the product, and the service, and leading a team of people who sell the good, the product, and the service. And some of the same methodologies that made you really, really good one-on-one with the customer, the way that you navigated those spaces, that those tactics won't necessarily work when you have a team of people. I was coaching a leader just the other day, and she came to this realization. She said, I've been with my people for a couple of years, and I realized we don't really know each other. Like, we're working in this function, we're doing this business together, but we don't really know each other. And what I said to her is, if you're working around people and you notice their behavior, but you don't have context, we do what humans do all the time when we see something. You know, a lot of the internet now is social commentary. You watch a little video clip and somebody's making comments on what they see, or interjecting what they think might be happening. As humans, that's what we naturally do. If we see a behavioral response, if we see an interaction, if we hear a comment, if we read your facial expression, and we do not have context, we are going to make up a story every single time. And that's what we're going to believe about you. So I said to her, it's going to be really important as you're leading this team. I know you were great at what you were doing, and this person was a part of a therapy practice. I was like, you're a really, really good therapist, really, really good counselor. Now, leading a team of therapists, leading a team of counselors, here are a few things that you need to consider. And one is helping each other navigate the stories that will bring you together. Because if not, you're just going to operate on assumptions, and it's not going to be too pretty in the long run, and people are going to leave and productivity is going to go down. When we look at AI, when we look at, and even before AI, you know this, right? As
Mhm.
old as we are, even before AI, people were throwing this stuff into Google. And I know it was a totally different world.
Yes, they were.
We were throwing it into Google back in the day. We were looking at those search engines. I don't know if many of your listeners remember Ask Jeeves from a long time ago.
Oh, I
That
remember.
that
Unfortunately, I
search
remember
engine.
that.
What we're looking for sometimes, because the actual execution is the challenge sometimes. And we know this as entrepreneurs. We come up with great ideas. We got whiteboards, and we got smart boards, and we got sticky notes. And now we have Chat GPT, and we have Claude, and we have whatever other ones are out there, where we throw in ideas, content. We put maybe the disc profile of our team, maybe the analysis of our website, maybe some other data around the makeup or construction of our team. And it spits out, here's a solution. Here's a suggestion. Well, the thing, at least right now, it can't take action for you. You actually have to be the person to have the conversation, to make the decision, to leverage the tactic or strategy that was given to you from Chat GPT, from that large language model, and you have to move it forward. And for a lot of us, we don't like that discomfort, that part, that uncomfortable space. We like hitting the button and feeling like, when we're talking to our LLM in the voice that we've picked, we like feeling like Iron Man or Minority Report, or like that cool feeling. But we don't like the discomfort that comes from taking action. And we know as entrepreneurs, we got great plans, ideas, strategies, but to actually take action is sometimes difficult for us. So that even with all the tools and resources, even incredible platforms like this, some of y'all have listened to this show for a couple of years now, and you wrote down tips and strategies and frameworks, and you got vision walls, but you still haven't taken the action because you're uncomfortable. But we all know that progress and a lot of times sales isn't going to happen until you get comfortable being uncomfortable and do the hard part. And as leaders, especially in today's environment, we cannot outsource, no matter how cool the tech is, we cannot outsource the hard part of dealing with the people who actually make the business go.
Well said, man. I like that. And I forgot about Ask G's, man. That was a good analogy, man. It took me back in the time capsule.
I
But I'm
know,
happy to
right?
still be here. I'm happy to be here. As you're talking, is making sense. Some people are nodding their head and saying that sounds great, Shay. But I really don't know this guy, Pierre. I mean, sounds good. I like what I hear, but who is he? What's his backstory that led
Yeah.
him to doing what he's doing now? Very, very reasonable question. So take a moment. I want to talk about who you are and the backstory that led to where you are now. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to put a pin to something, because he has this concept, even has a whole book on leading while scared, which sounds like an oxymoron to me, but we'll get to that in a minute. So talk about yourself, man. Talk about who are you, so folks know.
Yeah, man, I am an entrepreneur's kid. I'm an entrepreneur's kid. So my father and my grandmother, growing up, I grew up in the 80s. So in the early 80s to the mid 90s, our family ran a dry cleaning and commercial laundry operation in metropolitan Detroit. So I grew up at the feet of entrepreneurs, learning business from a dry cleaning and from a commercial laundry perspective. When I say commercial laundry, it just means you have laundry services for large organizations. So we were doing hospitals. We were doing, when you see your doctor, when you go into the hospital or you go to your doctor's appointment, your doctor walks in with the lab coat. Oh, we don't always think about, well, where does the doctor get their lab coat cleaned? We had contracts with hospitals. We were doing lab coats. We were doing police officer and county sheriff uniforms. It was a fairly sizable operation that our family ran for about 12 to 14 years. Ultimately, the business closed, but I learned so many lessons from that experience and trying to figure out what I want to do in life. Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to go down this road? I want to follow in these particular footsteps. On my mother's side, her mother, my grandmother, was also an entrepreneur. She ran a general store and had several other businesses growing up in the South of the United States. So entrepreneurship is in my blood, but also coming from a faith-based background, like church and religious leadership is in my blood too, because on both sides of my family, they were leaders in their church. So just growing up and navigating that space, and the assumption that everyone had was I'm going to follow in the footsteps of either my father and be a entrepreneur or start my own dry cleaning operation or do something church related. So I ultimately went to college, studied communication, undergrad and grad school, started teaching courses on communication and leadership. And I had to make a decision. What do I want to do? Couple of jobs. Ultimately, man, I came back around and I went to Bible college. I went to seminary studies, ultimately went back to do that. And I had this really pivotal choice moment, or at least I thought this was going to happen in my head. I needed to choose. Do I go down this religious leadership model, or do I follow an entrepreneurship methodology? And I thought they were at odds with each other, or that I'd seen them in conflict with each other. But I said, no, I'm gonna figure out a way to make these two work. So when I started congregational leadership in the ministry space, I also launched my business in coaching and training and speaking. And those two grew together for about 7 years till ultimately in 2019, I said, hey, full time, full time in my company, the Cardell Group, the small consulting firm. I had an opportunity to join a consulting firm before, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Didn't feel like it was the time, or I was ready or prepared, or a lot of crazy talk we give to ourselves to talk ourselves out of things. But ultimately came back to that idea. I said, I'm going to go into my business full time in 2019, and I've been rocking with it ever since. Had the opportunity to travel around the world, do some cool things, speak on some cool stages, coach some top shelf leaders, and help people really understand what it means to lead while green. That's the first book that I wrote, Lead While Green. This concept of leadership when you're just getting started, and then leading while scared. You've been around the block a couple of times, and you need to make a major leap in your leadership, but you're scared out of your mind to do it. And I've been sharing that message around the world.
Hey man, thanks a lot for giving us the backstory. I love it. Entrepreneurship is where you are today, but you're also working with leaders. You talked a little bit about lead while scared, but I want to talk to the entrepreneurs that are out there that said, okay, many of them are dualpreneurs. They're like, okay, Shay, at the office, I'm like that person. I'm her or I'm him.
Yeah.
And people,
Yeah.
so many, they got to fall in line. But now as an entrepreneur, they're trying to lead subcontractors and contractors and other people they got to work with, and there's a struggle. Is there a difference? Well, it probably is a difference between leading at the corporate world or organization and leading in the entrepreneurship world. And if so, what's that difference? And how can folks be better leaders as entrepreneurs to people who don't work for them, don't report to them, but they're still trying to get projects done? I know that's a loaded question, but I'm curious of your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching it firsthand in a family business, watching a organizational structure, and as our family was growing up, we didn't have all this theory. Nobody in my family went to business school. Well, nobody who was intimately a part of the family business had gone to business school. My grandmother graduated high school. My dad at the time had a couple of years of community college. I believe my uncle at the time had a few years of college, and he also had a military background. But no one had an MBA. We didn't do entrepreneurship courses. One of the courses that I teach now is entrepreneurial leadership. We hadn't gone through any of those programs. We were just a family who had a good product, and we needed to bring that product to market to our community, and we had to hire people to do it. And I watched my family really struggle with that. How do you lead staff? and how do you navigate the workspace? So lessons firsthand from that growing up. I realized as an entrepreneur, I realized as a person who runs my own firm and my own practice, this is different from the spaces where there was a clear hierarchy. So policy, procedure, rules on your 9 to 5 or however you construct your hours, there is a flow chart of responsibility. And when you say something, you the man, when you say something, you're the woman, people have to listen to you because of how the relationship is set up. And the policy and practice is structured in a way to support you in that. And many times in an entrepreneurial framework where it's just you and a handful of contractors who are getting the work done, right? You got somebody doing your graphics, somebody doing your copywriting, somebody handling your calendar. I know this experience all too well. You have to start to see people as partners. See them as valuable partners who you're doing a couple things. One, in many cases, when you're working with a contractor, you are supporting the development of that person's business. They work with you and they work with a handful of other people. So how can I support the development of their business? How can I coach and how can I mentor and support them? And also, how can I really find out what captivates them and see this as a partnership so that I'm clear on their goals, they're clear on my goals. I'm not necessarily their boss because I'm a contractor, but the intent that I bring to our engagement, and I'm making primary leader decisions because this is my business that they're supporting, but I'm doing it in a way that brings out the best in them and also fulfills what I need to do in my practice. So I don't treat my practice, or when I work, I got 5 or 6 consultants that I work with on a part-time basis, depending on the project. When we come together, it is not, okay, Pierre's the boss. Let's sit down. Let me give you instructions, because we're not in that type of environment. It has moved for me. It has moved from a triangle, and you know, that hierarchy, it has moved from a triangle to a circle because we're sitting around a table. The big project or the main idea is in the beginning, and we're all contributors to what's in the middle around this circle. And I support them in bringing their best so that we can all get paid, we can all satisfy the client, and we can get a great recommendation so that we can turn around and do it again. So it takes a little bit of shifting. For me, when I'm working previous jobs I had, the triangle was clear. I was at the top or near the top or in the middle, and I had people under me and I had people above me, and I could push and pull on some of the levers to get people to do the work. In my business, it's a circle. We sit around a table. The main idea is in the middle. And sometimes I'm speaking directly to what I want to see from the main idea. Sometimes I'm speaking around the circle to get everyone to make their contribution to the main idea. And that's a work for me. At least it's worked for the past since 2019. So 6 or 7 years.
Congratulations, man. And it's a great business model and model to have to be able to serve not only the person that you partner with, but also the impact you make to the greater folks as a part of it all coming together. Thanks for sharing. You know, I think it's a great segue to a segment that we have here called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. In fact, you might even wait for this very moment where you can say those magical words. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you. I love saying that. And then there's others you're joining for the very first time. And we're so pleased you're here. Thanks for joining. Today is our January 1st, is our personal mantra at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is or how bright and sunny maybe the past has been, the past really no longer equals the future. And so my question for Pierre on the other side is really twofold. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? What even goes through your mind? And number two, what was a setback you had? Your life seems to be so perfect so far. I mean, you know, you roll from one thing to going out there, starting your business, and coming back in 2019 and getting going. So we're always curious, was there ever a setback you had, and how did you bounce back from it?
Listen, Woo! So I love this segment, and I'm sure you're intimately familiar with Dr. Willie Jolly, who says a setback is a setup for a comeback. I just love that phrase ever since I first heard him share it several years ago. There's a lot, man. We could go on for hours talking about the setbacks that I experienced, and even my January 1st moment. When I think about Happy New Year, January 1st, what really comes to mind for me is January of 2022. January of 2022. So going in October of 2019 saying, hey, start my business. Well, not starting it, just going full time into it because I started it several years before. And then we know March, April 2020, I'm in the middle of a book tour for Leading While Scared. March, April 2020, world just shuts down. There is nothing happening. There there is nothing happening. And I'm devastated. I am It's a very difficult moment for me because for the rest of that year, I felt like I was scrambling. I didn't feel like I was scrambling. I was scrambling. All of my income was gone. All of the opportunities that I had on the table were gone because the people were trying to figure out what we're going to do in the world just to stay alive. And I was asking, okay, so what happens now? And I began to spiral downward. I put on like 20, 30 pounds. I wasn't getting haircuts. I wasn't going outside. I was staying in the darkness of my basement for just hours and days on end. And it was just a very, very rough space. Part of the reason why I tell that story is I'm looking at the world right now as we are recording or hanging out for this conversation. There are some similar ingredients to what's happening right now with a lot of the organizations that I work with. They receive their ability to do their work based on government funding and grants, and a lot of people, for a lot of them, that has gone away. And I'm having calls with people even since January. Pierre, we want to bring you in, but our funding has been cut, or we have the money, but there's been a moratorium on spending, and there's a lot of uncertainty that's happening right now. And part of me, at least in the beginning of the year, wanted to panic a little bit. But I started to think back to, wait a minute, not the same thing, but a similar thing. What happened in 2019? What happened in 2020? How did I respond? Spending the 6 or 7 months of 2020 just being frustrated. And here, man, here for me was the transition moment. And here's the perspective that I'm bringing into this moment right now. Who you surround yourself with in times of uncertainty, that's what matters the most. For all my entrepreneurs out there, y'all, who you surround yourself with in times of uncertainty, when you lose major contracts, when you have a great distribution deal and it falls through, when Walmart was getting ready to put your product on their shelves and for whatever reason they went in a different direction, who you surround yourself with in times of uncertainty is what really makes all the difference. So that year, scrambling 2020, I made some strategic decisions. I got a social media coach. I got a sales support person. I had an assistant. I found an assistant on one of these freelance platforms. I got a business coach and a close friend. And I said, I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. I am not in the best place. I said it to my coach, my close friend. I said it to the person who came on to be my assistant, really to check my calendar and run emails a couple hours a week. The person who's doing sales support and my business coach. I am not in the best place. I know I have gifts. I know I have talent. I know I have ability. The state of the world right now, I'm not in the best place, and I'm really going to need your help to to get back to a steady place, but also to bring what I have to the rest of the world. Can you partner with me in that regard? My budget is small, only a couple of hours a week or a couple of hours a month, but let's do this thing in partnership. Let's work together. And it led to such an amazing transformation that by the time we get to 2022, my business had returned to a six-figure business and beyond, simply based on, in the moments of uncertainty, in the moments of frustration, who was I choosing to surround myself with and leaning into those relationships. And there were a handful of others besides just those five, instead of what, at least what some of us as entrepreneurs like to do. We just like to stay in our own head, stay in our own journal, stay with our own notes. My favorite thing that we say that sometimes can be very, very challenging is, I'll figure it out. And that sometimes is an isolating statement because we think I can figure it out by myself or I can figure it out alone. And sometimes for us as entrepreneurs, that's the worst place for us to be. So in this, whatever uncertainty that you're feeling, maybe it's your business is thriving, it's going incredibly well, but it's that internal stuff that's happening. Maybe based on your backstory, some things that happened to you, and you have a not so great narrative that's limiting you and how you can move what you're doing as a dualpreneur forward. Surround yourself with people who talk in a different way, who can share support and affirmation, who can challenge and push back, and who can help to hold you accountable. Because uncertainty is cyclical. It's going to come around every so often. It's going to come around every year, maybe every quarter, maybe every few years. And you got to make sure you're surrounded with the right people so that you can keep moving forward, because that's the name of the game.
Well said, man. And one of the questions I get to ask when we have time, we got a few minutes now. It's one of my favorite is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And I'll frame it for the audience so they're clear that when I ask you to come off the mountain with the 10 commandments, when I ask you to
Yeah.
come up with some philosophy that, out the sky, but you've had a lot of mentors, you work with teams, you work with organizations, you've been around leaders, you've seen a whole lot. But if you had to step back and reach into your chest and say, you know what, Shay, of all the books I've read, of all the videos I've watched, of all the training I've had, here's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given. What is it that you would share with the audience now?
Yeah, it's a man. Okay, I'm gonna sneak it in and break the rules a little bit, man. I gotta give you like a one,
Go
a
ahead.
one and a 1A. So one comes from schooling, and one of the best pieces of advice that I received, and I actually got this from a friend who got it from his professor. And the advice was, people forget, paper remembers. So whenever you have a good idea, write it down. People forget, paper remembers. Whenever you have a good idea, write it down. And I recognize over years, there have been some amazing ideas that I've had that I've forgotten because I didn't capture it. And I know we're in a digital age, so write it down is subjective. You figure it out. Maybe it's recording a voice note. Maybe it's doing a quick video on your phone to remind yourself. However it is you collect that information, but make sure it's captured and it just doesn't sit in your head and not find its way to full fruition because you just kept it on the inside. People forget, paper remembers. Whenever you have a good idea, write it down. So that's one. 1A is, it is better to be easier to work with than it is to be the best at what you do. It's it is Let me restate it. It is better to be easy to work with than to be the best at what you do. And I've had this experience where we consider people world class or top of the game, the best salesperson, the best chef, the best photographer, the best attorney, the best, the best, the best, the best. And in the speaking industry, where I hang out a lot and where I derive a big chunk of my income, I have had conversations with meeting planners who have hired the best. This person is the best speaker for innovation. This person is the best speaker for AI. This person is the best speaker for leadership. And we had him at our conference. We had her at our event, and we will never hire them again. because they were so difficult to work with. They were not nice to people. They were not kind. They did not follow up in the appropriate manner. They did not feel make us feel like they enjoyed being here. They came off snobbish and with an attitude, and they may be the best at X, but I'll never work with them again. I much prefer someone who is very easy to work with, makes the process easy, than a person who maybe sits at the top of whatever the top echelon of whatever greatness is. Now that's not for us as leaders and entrepreneurs. That's not an excuse to not perform at your best. I'm not saying that at all. Not saying that at all. Continue to perform at your best and push, but also recognize people gonna remember how you made them feel. And at many times when it's time, we know y'all know the psychology behind sales. When it comes time to make a business decision, people are going to go with how they feel. And if they did not have a good experience with you, not only are they're not going to circle back, they're going to tell all of their family and friends. And I've gotten work, consecutive work, annual work, just because I really work to be a nice guy to be around that also does quality work. So
I never heard it
be
said
good to
that
work
way,
with.
but that's definitely one to hold on to. I like that. That's good. What do you do for fun? Since you're giving us this advice to be easy to work with, what do you do for fun when you're not out helping people lead or helping green
Yeah.
or new people lead and speaking on stages and traveling? What's some of the activities you do just to wind down and have fun, man?
I'm a big outdoors person, so anytime I can get outside, if there's a walk or if there's a run, I'm walking 30 miles a week now, jogging a couple of miles a week just to stay fresh because I travel a lot, but also just to be outside. We're inside. There's a lot of cameras and lights and screens all the time in my world, so I try to get outside as much as possible. So that's one. The second thing, man, with my wife and my two girls, I try to I we're on a mission now to help our kids really understand 80s and 90s culture. So we're taking them through all the movies we watched in the 80s and all the movies we watched in the 90s and all the fashion trends and all the music. So over the past several years, that's been our thing. Let's watch a movie from the 80s or the 90s. Let's listen to the song from the 80s or 90s, and let's help our kids understand the world in which we grew up in, and not just a version of it that they see in a museum. And that's been a really cool trip down memory lane for probably the past 3 or 4 years with my wife and I and our two girls.
That's kind of cool, man. I like that. I'm not adopt that. I like that. That's pretty cool. Cool thing to do with the kids and anyone. As we come down the home stretch, two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? And number two, how can folks best connect with you? Where should they go? They're like, I want to stay in this conversation. I want to follow up with this guy. Is there a website? Is there a place they should go find you?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So our work, my firm, the Cardell Group, really is positioned to equip leaders to be better to themselves so they can be better to their teams and ultimately better to their business. And we do that in three ways. We do that through keynote speaking, we do that through our coaching program, and we do that through our group workshops. And we navigate the ways based on the company needs to present our frameworks in a way that's really going to resonate with them. So large event keynote stages, that's where we hang out a lot now. But the thing that we're really, really focused on, like hyper focused on right now, are multi-day leadership retreats where we walk you through. Here's the framing around leading yourself. Here's the framing around leading your team. Here's the framing around leading your business. Now, some organizations, depending on size, scope, and budget, can't do a 2 or 3 day retreat. We actually love facilitating. And sometimes it just comes down to a one day masterclass where we walk you through our leadership methodology and then help you leverage our methodology to build a strategy around taking care of your leaders, the teams that they lead, and also the business. We found success doing that over the past several years. And if you want to learn more about our programs, there's two ways. My favorite way to hang out, my social media platform of choice, is actually LinkedIn. I'm on the other ones, but LinkedIn is where I hang out and is where I come to play. So LinkedIn, you type in Pierre Quinn. It's only a handful of us there. So You'll see me. The other place is on the website for our firm. That's thecardellgroup.com. That's thecardellgroup.com. And people ask, wait, why is it called the Cardell Group? Where does it come from? Well, Cardell just happens to be my middle name. And when I was putting together the business paperwork, they said business name. I thought about my middle name and I said, that's what we're going with. And we've been rocking with that ever since. So thecardellgroup.com.
I mean, I love it. Well, let me say thanks so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I know you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And you've, well, given us the most precious resource you have right now, which is your time. So thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you. Thank you to viewers for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show. You've got a lot of choices and you choose to be with us. And we want this to be a good use of your time. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you're doing really, really well and you're going to that next level of success and fulfillment, or you've been hit with the punch you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Thanks for joining in. We appreciate you. Peace, everybody. We're out of here. Thanks a lot, man. We'll see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye.